So this definitely should be fixed.
Deadlines loom. Colleagues in other Google offices are scheduled to test it the very next day. 24 hours later, a group of Google engineers in New York who had never seen Google Visual Search finally give it a try.
You are at a friend's house and you see this cool book and you think, I want to find out what the reviews say about it. Do you think Google Visual Search can help you?
Back in California, they anxiously watch by video link as first-time users test the product. Some reviews are not encouraging.
Like, I think that Google Visual Search would help, but it wouldn't be my first thought.
No price, no product, useless.
So you're feeling less certain that this will get you what you want?
If I had gone to my phone and done a search, I would have got better information.
Okay. Molly? Useful?
No.
Okay. Mike?
See, I'm going to disagree with everybody. I think this is way more useful than I thought it was going to be. It's not what I expected.
They decide it's just not ready for prime time.
Not yet.
So team members are dispatched to fix any remaining problems.
Come on. No, it didn't get the, yeah. We're still building out our database, so we don't quite have all of the objects in here that we would like to recognize.
The last critical hurdle is an internal product review called dog fooding.
Yeah, so I think that this is a good result, so I'm going to rate it heavily.
Shailesh Nalawadi is a product manager.
Dog fooding really comes from the phrase to eat your own dog food, which at Google means that every product that we get ready to release to our end users is tested extensively within Google by all of the employees at Google.
Never mind the cute name. Dog fooding means the team's baby will soon be in the hands of 20,000 critics, gleefully trying to tear it apart.
Googlers are very passionate about the products that we put out, and we get a ton of feedback, which we incorporate into the product before finally releasing it out to the hands of the end users.
Google is used to leading the field, but not in mobile phones. Visual search and apps like it are critical if Google is going to challenge Apple and claim more of those tiny screens in billions of hands around the globe. For now, Google is playing catch-up.
What AdWords does is it creates a level playing field for everyone from the smallest mom-and-pop business up to the largest Fortune 500 company.
How good of a program is Google AdWords for small businesses like yours?
In my opinion, it would be indispensable at a time like this.
AdWords is what made Google Google.
In the small, sun-baked town of Nogales, Arizona, just a stone's throw from the U.S.-Mexico border, we found an unlikely marriage of old-world craftsmanship and high-tech salesmanship.
The cowboys that wear our boots like to buy the toughest boot we can possibly make, so we delight in making the toughest cowboy boot that we can.
Cowboy boots don't get any tougher than this. And cowboy boot makers don't get any better than Paul Bond.
All right.
At 93, you can still find him every day in his workshop, sketching original designs.
Okay, that'll give him a little design around the top.
And hand-fitting the wooden forms he makes for each customer's feet.
We can shape his toes down to it, and the arch is just the right length.
The result is some of the most exquisite, durable, and expensive cowboy boots available anywhere. From $500 and up, depending on the design and leather.
What's the best skin?
Oh, really, one of the best is just a good old heavyweight calfskin. There's a heavyweight calfskin right there.
For decades, Bond Boot relied mostly on word of mouth, including some very famous mouths. But recently, this old-school craftsman took a gigantic step forward and planted his hand-cut boot firmly in the 21st century. Bond Boot began to advertise on Google.
You're handling it good.
George Bond is Paul's son and business partner.
Did you know much about Google before approaching?
Only as a search engine. I used it a lot. It actually was my favorite search engine. But nothing about AdWords, nothing about the advertising. I had no idea how it all worked.
Google's advertising program is called AdWords. It's a simple name, but its effect has been seismic, and not just for small advertisers like Paul Bond Boot. AdWords is one of the most revolutionary developments in the media world since television itself. Author John Battelle.
AdWords made the company. The company would be an interesting side note, as there have been so many in search. Dozens, if not scores or hundreds, of really interesting search services have come and gone, or still exist, but no one knows about them. But AdWords is what made Google Google.
So AdWords is the magic?
Absolutely.
AdWords may be the most successful and profitable business program you've never heard of. It generates more than 95% of Google's total profits, $4 billion in 2008. If you ever wondered how Google makes its money, AdWords is it.
It is very pure. It is a pure profit machine. I have a thesis, which is that they have more profits in that company than the entire media business. You know, in the 10 years that the company's been profitable or so. It's staggering.
AdWords is what generates the ads or sponsored links you see on a Google results page. If you Google custom or handmade cowboy boots,
there you are.
Yeah.
The Paul Bond boot ad often shows up there. Those are called impressions, and they don't cost Bond Boot anything. They only have to pay Google when someone actually clicks on their link and goes to their website. It's called pay-per-click. How well does it work? When Bond Boot launched their campaign, orders instantly spiked, more than 20%. And they've only gone up since.
How good of a program is Google AdWords for small businesses like yours?
In my opinion, it would be indispensable at a time like this. You can hit the people who are actually looking for the product. Mm-hmm. And in a product such as this, that's a relatively small number of people, but they do know what they're looking for if you'll just help them get there.
Most advertisers want their ads to show up as high on the page as possible. Here's how they get there. Let's say Paul Bond Boot wants its ad to appear when someone does a search for ostrich boots. Maybe Bond Boot is willing to pay $1 for every click on their link. So that's what they bid on those keywords. But there's more to it than price. Google's algorithm also gives a quality score to each advertiser's website.
You can't buy your way to the top if your ad isn't relevant.
David Fisher is Google's vice president for global online sales.
An advertiser who chooses the right set of keywords and shows really relevant ads can actually appear right at the top and actually be paying less than some of the advertisers who appear below them because their ad is so relevant. Our system actually rewards that. There he is. He shows up in the top slot.
And that's what happens with Paul Bond Boot. They may have a modest ad budget, but Google often pushes them to the top because of the quality of their website.
What AdWords does is it creates a level playing field for everyone from the smallest mom-and-pop business up to the largest Fortune 500 company and lets them compete alongside each other.
Advertisers can also adjust their campaigns down to the pennies they spend, the minutes they advertise, and the zip codes where they show.
You actually are presented with a map and all kinds of ways of determining where you want to advertise. In the moment, I have it primarily set by country because we're trying to control budget.
This is very addictive because it enables you to watch all of the activities of your customer.
You are exactly right.
It's a constant scorecard.
It becomes kind of a game that you're playing.
Like most AdWords users, George Bond manages the advertising himself, and it's obviously working. Maybe too well. Sometimes he literally has to shut it off.
Google could overwhelm us quickly.
How will Google overwhelm?
Given the indicated figures, it could double the number of orders coming in. There is far more out there available to us if we decide to extend the budget further. There's a lot more out there.
Right now, the Bonds have a 4-month waiting list for new custom boots.
Your boots will be there in about 3 days. How about that?
That looks good.
Paul Bond couldn't have imagined Google when he started making cowboy boots back in the early 30s. But not even this tiny shop in an Arizona border town is beyond the reach of the Internet's most powerful presence.
Respond for unknown emergency.
It helps us do our job faster by helping us retrieve information quicker. So if I want to see abandoned buildings, I click on an abandoned building layer, and then it becomes enabled on my map.
High noon, and the Washington, D.C. Fire Department is responding to a possible explosion. On board, they've got radios, first aid gear, and the latest firefighting tool, Google. That's right, Google.
It helps us do our job faster by helping us retrieve information quicker, and it also gives us a reference point on a map.
Deputy Chief Dimitrios Vlasopoulos isn't talking about Google's search engine, but a customized version of its mapping program, Google Earth.
So if I want to see abandoned buildings, I click on an abandoned building layer, and then it becomes enabled on my map.
It also shows the location of every fire hydrant, fire truck, and EMS unit in the city, all in real time.
The hydrant layer is telling us not only where the hydrants are, but whether they're in service or out of service. If they're out of service, we can't use them, so we're not even going to waste our time with it.
Google Earth is part of a software package the city of D.C. buys called Google Applications. Apps for short. Unlike most office software, Apps isn't installed on individual computers, but on Google servers, accessed through the internet. It's an idea called cloud computing.
Tell me what the concept of cloud computing is.
Cloud computing means you get your technology from the cloud, from somewhere else. Instead of having to install computers and software and manage it all yourself, you get it in the cloud.
Dave Gerard is president of Google Enterprise. His job is to sell customized Google apps like Gmail, Search, and Google Earth to businesses, schools, and governments.
In the old world, you pay a lot of money up front, and then you pay somebody else to install it, and then you pay somebody else to patch it when there's security problems or manage it, and then you go through another whole set of problems when it's time to upgrade to the new version. In this world, all that disappears.
D.C. officials say Google Apps has saved taxpayers more than $3 million in its first year alone. With a growing list of customers like Genentech and Motorola, Apps is turning a profit for Google, but a relatively small one. What may be keeping it from growing even bigger is the fear among some companies of entrusting their data to Google servers.
What if companies, institutions are hesitant to give sensitive information about intellectual property on the Google Cloud?
There is an element of trust required that there's just no getting around. You know, companies have to trust somebody. They trust their accountants, they trust their lawyers, they trust the phone company to transmit their phone calls. And at some point, they will become more and more comfortable with companies holding their data in their servers.
10 years ago, most of us had barely heard of Google, much less considered entrusting it with our most valuable information. Today, it is growing in size and ambition as this once unknown startup keeps moving into so many aspects of our lives.
Do a search for the phrase Google's future, and you'll get more than 1 million results. But none of them can answer the company's most pressing questions. Could it become too big for its own good? How much more can it improve its search engine? Can it continue to protect our privacy and its future? One thing's for sure, this is Google.